I would have never expected that a year ago, that today I would be doing 50, 60, 70 push-ups a day. Now, the way I arrived here was very much like the flossing, but a little bit different, and this was the equation. After I pee, I will do 2 push-ups. Okay, so I'd use the facility. Yes, technically you flush the toilet first, and then 2 push-ups. And you're done, and you go, awesome, okay? Yeah, okay, awesome, yeah. Well, after 2, it's really easy. You move on, then you do 5, then you do 8, and the current where I'm at now, I do 8, but I always do extra credits. So I tend to do 12 or so, and it adds up over the day. I end up doing, who knows, 50, 60, 70, depending on how much water I've had and other factors. The good news is that behavior and behavior change is not as complicated as most people think. It's systematic. And there are ways to understand behavior that are pretty straightforward and simple, and I'm going to share some of those with you today. There are 15 ways behaviors can change. There are not hundreds of behavior types. There's 15 ways. When we talk about health behavior change, people are mostly talking about long-term change, and this row, these are the 5 that represent different types of long-term change. I'm not going to go into depth here, but what I want to explain to you is when it comes to long-term change, there's only 2 ways you can get it done. Number 1, you can change your environment. So before, here's your environment, certain behavior, and then after, the changed environment changes your behavior. That's a reliable way. Now, changing the environment is a reliable way to change your behavior. However, it can be tricky, especially the social environment with families and coworkers and so on. So there's one other way of changing your behavior long term, and I'll give you a hint. It does not have to do with motivation. Surprise. Motivation actually applies to other kinds of temporary behavior change, but not long term. In other words, relying primarily on motivation to change your behavior long term is a losing strategy. And similarly for willpower. So if you can take those off the table if you make the behavior change tiny enough. Now in this grid, this is where habits live, blue path. It's something familiar that you do from now on. And if you make that very tiny, like 2 push-ups, floss 1 tooth, and so on, it's very easy to repeat and make that become a habit. Think about it this way. You already know how to floss all your teeth. That's not what you're lacking. What you're lacking is the automaticity of flossing. So you don't need to train flossing all your teeth. You need to train making it automatic. That there's a new way to create habits that is reliable and it's systematic. Now, when we look at health outcomes, bullseye, what do we want to do? Well, things like lose weight, manage stress, and so on. But if you design for the outcomes, you're designing at the wrong place. You need to design for the behaviors that lead to the outcome. And if you take an issue like weight loss, there are many, many behaviors that can contribute to that outcome. Stress reduction, eating better, and so on. And I would propose that most of the behaviors that we need to do are habits. So of the 15 ways behaviors can change, the one that matters most to long-term health are habits. And as we create what I call these tiny habits, and we can't do it all at once, little by little, we will then approach this health outcome in a very reliable way, in a way that doesn't regress, in a way that doesn't make you, oh, I give up, now I'm just going to go back to how I was.